ABC General Hospital spoilers show that Chase always thought betrayal made a loud noise when it happened, something you couldn't miss, like breaking glass, or a door slammed shut in anger. But when he finally saw that Willow had been tricking him from the start, there wasn't any noise at all. It was really quiet, almost like the air was pressing down and closing in around me. The betrayal didn't come like a sudden blast. It showed up as a steady, heavy pressure on his chest, making each breath feel like a silent blame. The woman he had stood up for, kept safe and counted on, wasn't the delicate person he once thought she was. She was a completely different person, someone who had played him carefully and could bend the truth so much that he didn't even know what was real anymore. That moment was the start of a disaster neither of them could turn back from. Chase's anger didn't erupt all at once. It simmered inside him like a snake, slowly waking up, quiet but dangerous. As he noticed more of Willow's contradictions, the darkness inside him kept growing. It wasn't a darkness that made him careless. It was the kind that sharpened his instincts and toughened his resolve. He started looking at Willow differently, noticing how she spoke, the way she moved, with the tightness in her jaw when she wasn't telling the truth, and the fake sweetness in her voice whenever she forced herself to seem calm. Every little detail turned into proof of the truth he had ignored for way too long. Willow sensed the change well before Chase said anything. She felt it in the quiet moments between them, in the way he stared a little too long, like he was studying her every detail just in case he wanted to turn it all against her someday. The more she felt it, the more her carefully built facade started to fall apart. She felt fear twist inside her, not because she regretted what she did, but because she was scared of losing control over the story. The closer Chase got to figuring her out, the more unpredictable she became, her feelings flipping from desperate to angry in a flash. She felt herself coming apart bit by bit, and with every piece that slipped away, a stronger, more urgent urge grew inside her to keep herself safe no matter what. Chase started going back over everything from the night Drew got shot, digging into all the little things Willow had skimmed past. The keychain incident when she carelessly hooked Drew's key onto Michael's ended up being the turning point. It showed more than just lies. It showed purpose. He started to see that the moments he had brushed off as just stress, fear, or grief were actually planned distractions all along. Whenever he stood up for Willow, she let it happen, treating his loyalty like a shield to protect herself. That's the part that hurt the most. She didn't just lie to him. She let him tear down his own integrity along the way. As the truth became clearer, Chase's anger started to shift into something darker. He could feel his patience running out, his trust slipping away, and his sense of right and wrong wavering like a small flame about to go out. He stopped asking Willow soft questions. He just watched her, silent, distant, patient. What scared Willow the most was the change she saw in him. She had relied on his loyalty, on how quick he was to forgive, on the innocent hope she always saw in his eyes. But that hope was gone, now replaced by a sharp clarity she couldn't twist or control anymore. Willow started spinning around. The weight of keeping her secrets felt like it was squeezing her chest, pressing hard against her ribs. Every time Chase walked into the room, she felt trapped and vulnerable. The idea of him finding out everything, how she was involved in the shooting, the drugging, and all the lies, sent her heart pounding with fear. She kept telling herself that if he ever found out, he'd mess everything up and take away the one thing she cared about more than anything, her child. And when Willow sensed danger, fear quickly turned into anger. Her desperation lit a fire inside her, and that fire brought out a wild edge she never knew she had, making her ready to lash out like never before. Chase saw the change right away. Willow's gentle way of explaining had changed now, sounding sharp, defensive, almost wild. Her eyes moved too fast, her voice broke when she was under stress, and every now and then she would snap at shadows like they were spilling her secrets. To Chase, these weren't just signs of guilt, they showed something deeper falling apart. A risky slide into the darkness she had been trying to keep from him. And with every day that went by, he noticed himself growing tougher in response. He didn't see her as someone who needed protecting anymore. Now he knew she could tear him apart if he wasn't careful. The change took Chase into unknown ground. His thoughts grew darker, filled with anger and a strong urge for revenge. He caught himself thinking about things he never thought he'd consider just a few months ago. He was changing into someone different, more cautious, less willing to forgive, and more thoughtful in his actions. A man forged not by justice, but by betrayal. As Willow spiraled further, he felt his sense of right and wrong slipping out of reach. He wasn't driven by love or duty anymore. He was just trying to survive. The disaster that had been quietly building finally came together when Chase caught Willow muttering to herself, admitting parts of the truth she had never dared say out loud. Her words came out in bits, but you could tell she was scared and angry, like she was confessing something while caught up in her own panic. That was the proof Chase had been waiting for, and exactly what Willow had been dreading. Their eyes met, and when she saw he had hurt her, something between them broke in a way that couldn't be fixed. At that moment, Willow looked at Chase and no longer saw a friend but a danger. Chase didn't see Willow as the person he used to love anymore. Now he saw her as someone who could destroy him if he got in her way. That was when everything truly went wrong, two people forced into darkness by secrets, betrayal, and fear. standing on the edge of a shock that would change poor Charles forever. The change inside Chase took some time and didn't happen all at once. It grew bit by bit like a storm slowly coming together over dark water, quiet, heavy, and impossible to stop. At first he couldn't believe what Willow did, then he felt let down, and finally, a heavy feeling of betrayal took over. But now it had taken a turn into something harsher, something that almost felt like it could get violent. The second he faced her, something inside him broke. He had spent months standing up for her, risking his reputation, and bending his own sense of right and wrong just to keep her going. When he finally saw that she had been controlling him all along, it brought out a dark side in him he never thought existed. When Chase finally snapped, it wasn't something he planned, it just came out. A raw feeling built up from months of lies eating away at him inside. Willow's mask had completely slipped, showing the cold plans beneath her tears and the chilling truth that she'd go to any lengths to keep herself safe. When Chase noticed her smirk vanish and fear take its place, a dark part of him felt a strange kind of satisfaction. Willow suddenly understood she no longer had control over him. For the first time, Chase understood he wasn't the man she could easily control anymore. But what came after that moment was even worse than the moment itself. Chase stopped trusting himself. He felt shaken and unsure, as if the person he had become was empty inside. He needed something real, someone honest to listen without any lies or panic in their voice. For some reason, he found his thoughts drifting to one person, Brook Lynn. Brook Lynn always noticed his cracks before he even realized they were there. She knew what loyalty meant, felt the sting of betrayal, and saw how grief could change someone so much they hardly knew who they were anymore. Chase was drawn to her not for comfort, but because he needed someone untouched by the lies that had torn him apart. She stood for something Willow could never give him: honesty. As Chase's life started to spiral, Brook Lynn was the steady grip he held onto. At first it was quiet, a simple text, a shared quiet moment, a walk just to clear his head. But before long, he kept finding himself reaching out to her all the time. The tighter Willow's shadow closed in on him, the more he found himself needing the warmth and honesty Brook Lynn gave so naturally. Their bond grew stronger not because of romance, but because they had to survive together. Chase stopped focusing on Willow's betrayal and started finding comfort in being around Brook Lynn. And that change turned into a different kind of risk. Willow felt it right away. As she tried to patch things up with lies and manipulation, she could feel Chase slipping away from her, not just in his heart but deep down in his soul. The man she used to control with whispers and fear was now standing next to someone who made him stronger. Someone who brought back the person he once was. That scared her more than the thought of being found out ever had. If Chase got stronger, he wouldn't keep looking out for her. He would stop trusting her. He might even turn her in. That fear sparked a fierce obsession in Willow. She was determined to pull Chase back under her influence before Brook Lynn could take him away for good. The more she tried to hold on, the more he slipped away. The more she lied, the easier it became for him to see the truth. The more she begged, the more distant he grew. And that coldness wasn't quiet or hidden. The tension hung in the pauses between his breaths, in the way he kept his eyes on Willow's every move, and in the low tone he used when he told her to stay away. The darkness inside him had been stirred awake by betrayal, and it had grown into something he was struggling to keep under control. If Willow pushed even a little more, Chase was worried he might end up doing something he couldn't take back. Brook Lynn saw the change as well, the weariness in his eyes, the slight shake in his hands, and how he kept looking down at the floor instead of at her when he talked. She could tell he was falling apart, but she hadn't realized just how badly he was hurt inside. As she reached out to help him, she didn't realize she was stepping right into the middle of a rapidly spinning disaster. Chase found himself drawn to her more and more, unable to hold back. Whenever she brushed his arm or whispered gently, he felt a calm wash over him, almost like peace. But that peace was shaky, held together by the broken pieces of who he used to be. And Willow's shadow stayed with him like a curse he just couldn't shake. His need for Brook Lynn felt like a lifeline, but it also kind of admitted just how far he'd slipped. And Willow saw every bit of it. Her jealousy wasn't the fiery kind. It was cold and poisonous, like a thick fog that clouded every decision she made. Seeing Chase drawn to Brook Lynn really pushed her to the brink of desperation. If she couldn't have his loyalty, she'd tear down everything that kept him steady. If she couldn't control him, she'd break him apart. The story took a turn the change everyone worried about when Willow figured out she didn't just want Chase back. She wanted Brook Lynn out of the picture. Chase was caught between fearing the woman he once knew and needing her in a way he hadn't before. And he found himself on a path darker than he ever thought possible. His anger wasn't just aimed at others anymore. It gnawed at him from inside, pulling him closer to a breaking point. What they didn't realize was that this new triangle wasn't about love at all. It was a story about obsession and destruction, with a shock waiting to blow up, one that would pull all three of them into a place they couldn't come back from.